Right. Well, welcome again, everyone, to the Mid-Year Motivation for Climate Action. It is hard to believe we have already reached that mid-year point of 2025. So you'll hear us say it more than once, but we really are filled with so much gratitude that you're all here today, because we really do believe that every single effort and action matters. They all add up and really do work us towards solving the climate crisis. So whether you're brand new to things or you've been with us for a while and been contributing, just know that, right, we have the means to keep adding up all those good actions and hopefully getting us to that point of tipping us towards an enduring good. So we're going to cover a couple things tonight. We'll start with some quick introductions and who we are, and we'll get right into talking about our first round of goals that we have within this organization and roles, ways that you can contribute and be a part of them. We'll do a recap of where we've been so far this year before having a quick group discussion. And then we'll get into another round of talking about goals and roles, and then share a little bit about the challenges that we still face and our shared strengths in response to those challenges, before wrapping up with one more round of our goals and roles that we have and energizing ourselves forward. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. Our teammates here will do our best to keep an eye on it and answer them. And yeah, hopefully give you as much resources and context as you need. So just to kick us off with some quick introductions for who's going to be presenting this evening. I can start us off. I'm Chelsea Alexander. I use she, her, aya pronouns. I work as the Movement Building and Volunteer Director with 350 Colorado, and I'm based in the Front Range in Lakewood. Now I'll pass it over to Sarah.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the 350 Northern Colorado Coordinator, and I am based in Fort Collins. And I'll pass to Heidi.
Hey everybody, I'm Heidi Leithwood. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Climate Policy Analyst with 350 Colorado, and I live in Denver. And I'll pass it on to Steve.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Kushner. I live over in Glenwood Springs. I use he, him pronouns. And I am the coordinator for the Roaring Fork Valley, which gets us from Glenwood Springs down I-70 a little bit and then all the way over to Aspen. So we've got a big territory here. But I love doing it, and I'm so glad to see everybody here. I'm going to pass it back over to Chelsea to introduce it to Matt and Allie.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, our teammates Matt and Allie aren't here this evening, but you will get an introduction from them once we get to their section, as they gave us a nice little recorded video clip. So even though this is not the whole 350 Colorado team, we'll still be able to cover a lot of good ground together and hopefully also answer any questions that you have about anything. So please use the chat to follow those same prompts. We would love to hear from y'all of who you are, your pronouns, where you're based, and maybe how long you've been involved in climate activism, either within 350 Colorado or elsewhere. I recognize a lot of familiar faces here tonight, which is really lovely, but for any new folks, we want to make sure you feel welcome and connected in this space and come away with some maybe new connections. So as folks are getting that dropped in the chat, we want to just give us a touch of grounding about who we are. Chances are a lot of you know who we are, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, our mission here at 350 Colorado is to build a powerful grassroots movement that is addressing the climate crisis and transitioning us to a sustainable future. So without all y'all here tonight, we could not do all the things that we're going to be talking about, right? We need each and every one of us showing up authentically to do that. And our theory of change, as we'll get into in the next slide, is pretty straightforward. We really do believe that when the people lead, the leaders will follow. And so we continue to stay focused on just building that powerful movement of volunteers and interns and allies, all the people that are using their gifts and skills to counter the power of the fossil fuel industry and really win in the ways that we need to through policy and really shifting the status quo. All those things that we need to protect our planet and future of 7 generations to come. So that's just a little bit of who we are. And within our areas of work, this is a better visualization to see what that looks like. So again, we start first and foremost with having a powerful grassroots movement of people all across the state of all abilities and skills and levels of expertise coming together and working together to keep fossil fuels in the ground and promote and secure just and equitable solutions that don't harm and pollute our communities and our health. And all of that too does play into defunding climate disaster, which is really where the very roots of 350.org comes from. We want to take all of that funding that goes into fossil fuel industries and put it into places that really do need and deserve it in order to build a more just and equitable world with the powers of regular everyday people. So hopefully that kind of refreshes for you, who we are and what we do. And with that, we're going to get right into talking about our first round of goals and roles, and making sure that you're hearing immediately in the jump here about ways that you can get involved. So even though you don't see it here in these 4 buckets of our areas of work, we're starting our goals and roles here and discussing operations. And we kind of put that into 2 separate categories. There's fundraising and there's communications. So starting with fundraising here, like any 501c3 nonprofit out there, we have to do this day in and day out in order to sustain and advance our mission. So fundraising really comes into providing the financial resources that we need to operate effectively, supporting our programs and our campaigns, supporting people and supporting those campaigns, and really ultimately fostering a sense of community, of involvement and collaboration. So our goals on the long-term front really are to ensure sustainable funding, which in this day and age more than ever is something that has been more volatile and at more risk in this administration that we're seeing at the federal level. And so we're working even harder than before to try to ensure that we have the funding and the investments that we need to keep our work going. And in the short term, as y'all have possibly seen in this moment already, we're trying to raise sufficient funds specifically through our mid-year fundraiser, which we do every year, our annual work. It actually wraps up this Friday, the 20th. And so we want to use this opportunity to invite you to support the mid-year fundraiser if you haven't already. If you have already supported it, no matter how much you gave, we cannot thank you enough, truly, from the bottom of our hearts for really contributing and helping realize our mission. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our donation page, and you'll be able to find that there. And if you're not in a place to donate, we completely understand. There's still so many ways in which someone could support fundraising work. That could be posting about the fundraiser on your social media, maybe just making a few personal asks to people you know, helping with phone banking, which we're going to be doing a little bit later this week, and really just sharing this opportunity with other people so that they can be a part of it as well. So we are rising and resisting together and hopefully reaching our goal by the end of this week. But even once that mid-year fundraiser is done, right, the fundraising work continues. So there are many ways in which you all can be a part of that work if it interests you. We have a fundraising committee that meets every other Tuesday. And so we love to have people in that space bringing fresh ideas and perspectives on how we can grow our fundraising. That also looks like having opportunities to connect with different kinds of donors and forming different kinds of partnerships. That is even more important than ever because of how a lot of interests are shifting for a lot of funding organizations at this time. So the more new donors and new organizations that we can connect with, the better. And even possibly leading fundraising events. This one is very flexible and adaptable to people's interests. So ways that this has looked in the past is if someone held maybe a house party, whether it was in person or online, a great way to just get the word out there about fundraising and hopefully get folks to contribute in that way. So even though Bridget, our development director, is not here tonight, I feel comfortable speaking on her behalf, saying that she would love to have the support in this realm and see you at the fundraising committee on Tuesday afternoons. So by the end of this presentation, you will know how to get a hold of her as well as the rest of us and get to learn a little bit more about fundraising opportunities. So with that, I'm gonna shift us over to talking about communications to wrap up this first part of our goals and roles. And this is where we get to hear from Allie, our communications coordinator.
Hey everyone, my name is Allie and I'm the communications coordinator at 350 Colorado. I'm here to give you guys a quick overview of our communications work and how you can get involved. So first up, our goals. Overall, our goal is to uplift all the incredible work happening across the organization and across Colorado. So that means getting the word out about events, legislative action opportunities, volunteer opportunities, and anything else our campaigns and committees are working on. At a big picture level, our long-term goal is to build and maintain strong communication strategies that grow the climate movement, educate and influence the public and decision makers, and support the success of our campaigns. In the short term, we do that through a range of tools, everything from social media, letters to the editor, newsletters, weekly emails, one-on-one conversations, and even legislative advocacy. And so these are just some of the ways that we communicate on climate and reach people where they are. So a few key pieces of our work include the Safe and Healthy Colorado Communications Committee and the Letter to the Editor Committee. We're currently looking for new members for both of those. They're both on the newer side. And yeah, you'll be connected with a lot of really great volunteer opportunities. So if you're looking for a way to take action, there's a lot of ways that you can get involved. So first off, you can be a social media activist, and that just involves liking, sharing, and engaging with our posts. You don't need to sign up for anything to do that. You can just go ahead and get started. So that's pretty easy one to get started on. And then you can also join the Safe and Healthy Colorado Communications Committee as a member, and that allows you to volunteer and support our communications work. You can also take a more leadership role as a co-chair to help organize our committee and support our volunteers. We're also looking for a communications representative to connect with our other committees and teams statewide and represent the committee at statewide leadership meetings. Also, if you enjoy writing, you can become an LTE writer to share your voice and help shape public opinion. And last but not least, we're always looking for communications volunteers and interns. So whether you're into graphic design, writing, video editing, media outreach, managing social media, or anything else, it's really a great way to get involved. So if any of that sounds interesting, make sure to email me. My email is Allie, that's spelled A-L-L-I, at 350colorado.org. And yeah, I'd love to get you connected to a volunteer opportunity. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to teaming up and getting the word out.
Great. Well, thank you, Allie. If anyone needs the visual for what she just shared there, here's a good place to look around our long-term goals and our short-term goals as it comes to having really strong communications. So no shortage of opportunities for writers or creative people, and lots of spaces, whether it's the Safe and Healthy Colorado Communications Committee or the Letter to the Editor Committee. Those are all great places to plug in and be able to contribute as you can. And so again, just recapping what Allie shared here on this slide. And we will be sharing these slides with you all after the fact in case you want to reference anything or share them with other people in your network and use it as your own informal recruitment opportunity, which is super important. So with that wraps up talking about round one of goals and roles. So we're going to shift gears a little bit here into talking a little bit more about this mid-year moment that we're in, right? And where we've been since the beginning of 2025. And what a year it's been, right? I'm sure you don't need me to go on about how different this year has been compared to others that have passed. And so we'll start at that highest level, the global level, moving into the national level and ending with this more local level of Colorado. And so while we won't be able to cover every single thing that happens, we're hoping to highlight what we see as the most important stuff to inform our organizing. So I will pass it over to Heidi here.
Thanks, Chelsea. And yeah, this is just touching on a few things, a brief summary. And I would also encourage you all to pop into the chat if you think of anything globally, nationally, or statewide that seemed important to you as I'm talking. Please feel free to go ahead and do that. So on both the global and the national front, there's both good news and bad news. I want to start with the bad news so we can end with some good news. Planned production of fossil fuels around the world, even under all of the climate promises of the various countries, is over double what's needed to keep global heating to international goals. And that's been the case for years. But even under climate promises, major fossil fuel producers plan even more extraction. So as I'm sure you all know, along with the greenhouse gases, producing and burning fossil fuels causes pollution that kills. But the good news is, data shows that the world's air pollution has probably reached a peak and started going down. We were also expecting to see greenhouse gas emissions leveling off and beginning to decline, but with recent US policies, it's uncertain what will happen with that. There are some really important legal challenges and wins that are happening around the world, and here's just one example. Scotland's Court of Sessions ruled that the massive Rosebank oil field is unlawful. So that's an extremely good decision and precedent. The rapid expansion of renewable energy around the world is also something to behold. For example, based on economic forces alone, since renewables are the cheapest option, New Zealand's electrical grid is now comprised of 98% renewables, and they're on, 88% renewables, and they're on track to reach 100% by 2040. On the global scene, in contrast to the usual state of affairs where the US leads the way and sets the bar high, the US is now the rogue climate state, with Trump attempting to zero out the progress we've made. One thing his administration is attempting to do is to deny that greenhouse gases are a pollutant, which would mean that the EPA would have no authority to regulate them. He's also trying to prevent states from having climate policies that don't fit with his vision for, quote, unleashing American energy. Isn't that weird? Unleashing is a word that's associated with violence and destruction, which is exactly what he seems to have in mind. However, the clean energy industry is growing despite all this, and much of this growth is actually in red states. So hopefully that will lead to more bipartisan support for it in the long run. In the first quarter of 2025, out of all the new power generating capacity built in the US, 98% of it was solar and wind. And in March, that was 100%. 100% of all new electricity generating capacity was solar and wind. And March actually marked the 19th month in a row that the new capacity that was built was majority wind and solar energy. So that's exciting. And despite Trump's desire to unleash US fossil fuel production on the world, oil and gas production in the US is actually falling due to prices being low right now. Next slide, please. So with all of this happening on the national front, we can be very glad that in Colorado, at least, we already have laws requiring the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. However, we are behind in meeting these requirements. Climate change and related pollution is harming people, communities, and the agriculture and outdoor recreation industries. One example of this projected impacts, as temperatures continue to rise, wildfires will be more and more extreme, happening anywhere, including high elevations and any time of year. So it's really important what we do here in Colorado to protect ourselves and also to lead the nation. States like us need to do things to lead. Unfortunately, this year, early 2025, was not a good year for climate bills in Colorado. Legislators don't yet understand the urgency of the crisis. Some do, but but some care, but they just don't understand how urgent it is. And that's one of our goals this session, to make sure that they do know. For instance, if climate pollution is not reined in, and Colorado must do its part in this, we could see temperatures rise in Colorado an additional 11 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century, and that's within the lifespan of today's toddlers. There are a couple of examples too this year already of the oil and gas industry being bad actors. The Gallatin well blowout, and this is a well that was owned by Chevron, released toxic chemicals, including the carcinogen benzene, up to 10 miles away. This massive disaster could take more than 5 years to clean up. We've seen data falsification scandals, and recently a report came out showing an overwhelming failure to comply with the law that requires disclosure of fracking and drilling chemicals. So there is a lot to be done, but we have a really, really good coalition of groups working on this and a great group of volunteers. And I think with all of the things that are happening, hopefully we'll just take that to get even more determined. One highlight this year was when the Denver City Council unanimously rejected a $25 million contract with Suncor for asphalt due to its terrible pollution record. And, you know, that may have been due to people like us and our allies trying to bring attention to all the terrible pollution and the egregious permit violations. So municipal action can be powerful, and we need more of it. And I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Heidi. There's always, yeah, so much ground to cover to recap such a year as 2025, but we would really be off the mark here if we didn't wrap up this section by talking about how much gratitude each and every one of us have for all that you have done to organize alongside us so far in this really challenging year. There's so much for us to be proud of and the stuff that we have accomplished here together, thanks to your leadership and your vision and your passion. So whether it was a strong state of the climate kicking off in a frigid year, great work in Greeley for clean air, tabling at different events to bring in new people, or having a really epic climate lobby day in March in which we brought people from all over the state together in order to advocate to our legislators. We have not been short of any opportunity yet this year that has really brought us together and showcased what people power can do, what like-minded people can do. So for all of you that were a part of one or more of these things, I hope you'll take a moment tonight to just reflect on how you helped realize that and how without you, we could not have had the same result. So take that opportunity to have some self-gratitude and feel where you brought us to this point. We have so much more to do for the rest of the year, right? So many more opportunities here in front of us. And to do that, we're curious to hear from y'all. If anyone wants to maybe come off mute or just drop it in the chat. What kind of strengths or skills do you feel like you have to bring to the movement? Is it your ability to talk with people? Is it your resiliency? Would really love to hear just from a couple folks here on strengths and skills and making the rest of this year as impactful as possible. Keeping an eye on the chat here. Does anybody want to come off mute and share?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'll come off mute. I'd say because of I know I'm in like high school, so I have like the youth connection I can connect to. And I guess like the youthful motivation of tons of energy. And then like the social skills. So
I love that. Thank you, Layla. That's right. We need energy on all ends of the spectrum. Yeah, Patty?
I don't see it so much as strengths or skills, but I do have interest in several different groups, and they are all working very parallel to each other. And connecting the efforts of these people so that we can combine forces and build the movement as our infrastructure and our connections grow is one of the things that just interests me.
Ooh.
And I am very interested. I put in the chat something about this. I don't know how to pronounce it. Uinta, the oil, the gas transportation through Glenwood Canyon. I used to live in Carbondale, and I'm very, very concerned about that and would like to see what's going on with that project. That is a all west. I mean, anything that touches the Colorado River, it will be impacted. Any state, any people, any tribal organization. This is very important to me. And also this Sunday event that Bill McKibben and Fossil Free Media. I'm working on that. And actually Bill McKibben is the big third act launch is tomorrow night. And I see some of you have a meeting at the same time, but it's at 7 Eastern time. So that's 5 Mountain time. So you could hear his launch, but these are compatible. And I just think that it would be possible that we could do something that is local and regional, promote it and amplify this project while doing something on Sunday, because it's all about keeping fossil fuel in the ground. It's all about climate justice. It's all about getting a better future. And so that's why I'm real interested in connecting with you. I saw you, Chelsea, at the No Kings table the other day. So anyway, this is this is my very first time with 350.org, and I'm just interested in starting making connections.
Nice. Thank you so much. You're definitely pointing to something that's so important, and I'm so glad you feel energized to show up to the critical types of movement building that we have to do by working in coalition and being with other groups to do good stuff together. There are so many good groups out there working alongside us, trying to build a better future. Very nice. Thanks, y'all. And appreciate everything that's coming through on the chat there. This is really great. So keep reflecting on that. And if you find that you're connecting with other people who are interested in dipping their toes into climate work, having a question like that to ask them can be a really good icebreaker and getting people to consider how they can be a part of the climate movement. So with that, let's get into our second round of our 3 rounds of goals and roles. And this getting into some really, juicy stuff around our campaigns. Starting with keeping fossil fuels on the ground, shifting into climate policy, and then hearing about promoting climate solutions. So I'm speaking tonight on behalf of our wonderful teammate, Bobby Mooney, who is on vacation right now, but she is our Beyond Oil and Gas director, as well as our staff attorney. So she works to see that in the long term that we are working towards phasing out permits for new fracking by 2030, right? There's over 100,000 wells that have been fracked in this state already. There is no reason why we need to keep adding new ones to the map. And so part of that too looks around shifting public opinion and getting more and more people to understand and act on then the detrimental impacts of oil and gas. But in the short term, we're hoping to continue to build a powerful coalition with your help to keep fossil fuels in the ground and center frontline community members. So this one in some ways is the most straightforward body of work, right? No to fracking, keep it in the ground. Let's find better solutions in place of them. So we have a lot of ways that people can be a part of this. First and foremost, we are looking for co-chairs for our Fracking Action Committee that meets twice a month. Shout out Elle, who's here this evening as a major supporter in that space. We need folks that can work closely with Bobby to draft an agenda, bring in neat speakers, put on cool events, and bring their expertise to that space. We're also looking for folks that can act as a watchdog, as we call it. There's so much happening at any given moment in time between what our state regulatory bodies are doing or what local regulators are doing. And so we need folks that can keep their finger on the pulse and make sure that they're gathering information and relaying it back in a way that we can make more strategic decisions. And the last item there for this body of work is having a really strong volunteer welcome wagon. So when new people find out about 350 Colorado and they join this committee, it would be really great to have a couple different volunteers that are ready to welcome these people, right? Make some connections, figure out how we can work together and really help support just better engagement. Because a lot of times when we're doing this statewide organizing, it's easy for us to get siloed and feel like we're on our own or that other people don't have our backs, but we definitely do have your back. And the more that we can get connected to one another, the better that we can do to do this work. So if you are interested in connecting with Bobby or being a part of keeping fossil fuels in the ground, consider one of these opportunities, and we'll be sharing her email by the end of this as well. And with that, I will pass it over to Heidi.
Thanks, Chelsea. I work with climate policy, and this has to do with both legislation and regulation. So once laws have been passed, they don't magically come into existence. Oftentimes, agencies have to actually write the very detailed, technical, nitty-gritty rules to make emissions reductions happen. So there are many, many opportunities for public comment here, using your voice and passion to speak up. There's also opportunities to help in researching as we write our 350 Colorado comment, and also researching and creating toolkits to help other members of the public comment. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So roles include public commenters, as I've just mentioned, and that is typically at virtual Zoom meetings and also submitting written comment. I also do need people to help track events. Like, there's so much going on at various agencies, as well as their public meetings that they have, and to help send reminders for meetings and the public comment. The researcher role, I believe I've already mentioned, but this is also going to be extremely useful as we're trying to launch our messaging campaign. We need resources. We need people that are going to just see articles come across their feed and then send them to me, so that we gather resources to counter all the disinformation that's out there. And then also, even though Allie has an LTE committee through the communications part of this work, there's a sort of a separate need for LTE and opinion piece writers in the policy space. Because when there's a rulemaking happening or when there's a law that we're trying to get passed, sometimes we need people to write specifically about that certain policy, that certain rule or law that we're trying to get passed, or to like debunk opposition talking points. So this is also really an important piece of the work that I do, and also people that can help edit and proofread our own official comments and our toolkits for the public. Yeah, and then I'm always finding out that people have skills that I didn't think of. So if you're kind of interested in policy and you want to get involved, I just encourage you to come to the policy meetings or email me at Heidi@350 Colorado, and let me know your interests and skills, and I'll try to get you plugged in.
Nice. Thank you, Heidi. And our last section within this section of keeping our campaigns is our promoting climate solutions. So I'm going to turn it over to our friend Matt, who's not here tonight.
Hi there, my name is Matt Gose, and I am the Promoting Climate Solutions Coordinator. I'm sorry I can't be here tonight. I'm currently backpacking in Yellowstone with my dad and a couple of other friends. But anyway, let me just jump right into this. So I am the head of the Promoting Climate Solutions campaign area of our work. And our long-term goal is to secure, support, and amplify pro-climate and eco-economic policies, legislation, regulatory agencies, and other governmental bodies. So basically looking to amplify and support legislation that is, pro-climate. And then, also to highlight and educate members on solutions that already exist in Colorado, hence the promoting climate solutions aspect there. In the short term, we're looking to create lasting relationships with legislators during the legislative off season, which is June through December, which is what we're currently in right now. and support national fossil fuel divestment campaigns, such as Stop the Money Pipeline's Summer of Heat, which is calling out big banks like Chase and Citibank for their financing of these fossil fuel projects and expansion. And also to showcase energy efficient and electrified homes. We're doing a clean energy home tour, or a couple of them, sorry, this summer. And yeah, getting to see houses that are either carbon neutral or carbon negative, or just have reduced their carbon footprint. Yeah, so moving forward into the different committees that you'll see my face in, you'll see me heading, are the Legislative Action Committee, which meets on the first Monday of the month outside of the legislative session. So currently and throughout the summer, we'll be meeting on that first Monday of the month. And that's from 5 to 6 p.m. You can find all of these committees on our calendar on our website and should be able to join through Zoom for all of those. So yeah, with that committee, what we do is during the legislative session, analyze bills that we're tracking. We have a bill tracker, and we try to coordinate support for different bills that need it, whether that's testifying at the Capitol, lobbying and meeting with different legislators, or being a part of our Climate Lobby Day, which is generally a huge and awesome event. So yeah, moving forward into promoting climate solutions, that committee, we focus on highlighting regenerative agriculture and renewable energy in Colorado, usually through guest speakers. But this will also be having an in-person component as well. This summer, we'll definitely be doing those Fossil for Your Life home tours. That committee meets on the first Wednesday of the month from 6 to 7 p.m. Once again, you can find this on the calendar. And lastly, our Defunding Climate Disaster Committee focuses on combating what fossil fuels need to expand, which is money. We talk about all things divestment, and yeah, that committee is really great as well. I want to go over time here, so I'm going to just really quickly wrap up. That committee meets on the third Friday of the month from 4 to 5 p.m. And to click over to our next slide here, just wanted to quickly mention that with these committees, every single one of these committees, we're looking for a co-chair. Currently have one awesome one with our Legislative Action Committee, but are looking for a second one because that one requires a lot. And bird doggers. You might be asking, what are bird doggers? And those are people that are checking to see where these legislators are having public-facing meetings so that we can show up and we can support them, and we can also ask them these questions, these hard-hitting questions of will they be supporting climate legislation in the 2026 legislative session. So if any of these interest you and you might be interested in being a co-chair, you just want to attend a call, would love to see you. And yeah, thanks for listening to me from afar. I'll pass it to whoever's next. I'm not sure who's next.
All right. So much like Allie's presentation there, here's just a quick visual of the stuff that Matt just shared. So as you gathered, promoting climate solutions is a giant body of work. There's legislative action, renewable energy, regenerative agriculture, and even technically defunding climate disaster. So many ways to embrace the yes body of work, the things that we want more of in this world, right? That support our health and our well-being. And so just to reiterate, co-chairs for those committee spaces that work closely with Matt and others to develop agendas, bring in speakers, things like that. And so we hope that we can have your support in one of those spaces and being able to make the back half of this year super impactful. And that wraps up the second round. So we'll have one more round after this, and then we'll be pretty much done. But before we do that, we do just want to kind of connect ourselves back to the great information that Heidi shared about where we've been so far this year. She shared the good stuff and some of the bad stuff. And we figured we might as well loop back around and talk a little bit here about, other challenges that we are still facing for the rest of the year, but the shared strengths that we all have. And we'd love to hear this from y'all as well. But with that, I will pass it over to Sarah.
So we are going to start with the challenges, and I don't want to harp too much because I'm sure you're all very aware of the challenges. Maybe so much so that you want to throw your phone in a nearby body of water or curl up in a ball. So we'll try to get through those quick to get to the strengths. But obviously the climate crisis is worsening. We're seeing each year continuing to get hotter and seeing an increase of intensity and destructiveness of unnatural disasters, which is super scary. And there is also just so much going on in the media and in the national level that people are having to either pick an issue and so they're not able to engage in maybe all they would like to, or they're just so overwhelmed that they disengage. And there's also just like a lack of accessibility in a lot of spaces that makes it hard to be an activist. So I would also welcome you to drop in the chat what challenges you've seen or experienced as we go on to the next slide. So this is more on our organizational level. So the power of the fossil fuel industry, if you can believe, they do have a little bit more money than we do, which makes it really easy for them to greenwash and make ads that make themselves look really good. And it also makes it really easy for them to be kind of in the pockets of politicians. And that leads into the complacency of government and the willingness of government to continue supporting and uplifting the status quo, making us rely on oil and gas and poisoning our communities. There's also a lack of funding. As Chelsea touched on during the fundraising section, we are a nonprofit, and it's just like expensive to be alive right now, as everyone knows. So that makes it really hard to fundraise, and especially at the federal level when there's a lack of funding for climate organizations and this work in general. And the last thing is having trouble with distributed leadership. We have a great team of staff, board, and volunteers, but it's just hard not being able to do all the work that we want to do. But that's why we have people like you guys on this call to distribute some of that and to help kind of support you in what you're passionate about and get our scope a little bigger. Oh.
Not sure how I just did that. Apologies. Let me get back to my slide. Sorry.
Oh, and you could go to the next slide and we get to talk about strengths. So as we saw over the weekend with the No Kings protest, we have strength in numbers. There were thousands of people who were in the streets in Colorado demanding better, saying that we're fed up and that we're not going to take it anymore. And people are scared, they're worried, but mostly they're angry. And this anger can be a super powerful catalyst for change and lead us to the streets, lead us into this resistance. And in this resistance, there's solidarity and there's people power, which creates this resilience and this wanting to go on because we're part of this movement and we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves. So now I welcome you to drop some successes in the chat. I'm sure we'd all love to see those at this moment. And we also, on an organizational level, have great volunteers. We have you all on this chat. You all voluntarily are on a Zoom on a Tuesday night when it's getting a little warmer and sunnier, so we appreciate you being here. We also have a great staff and a great board and incredible coalition partners that we work with, both in and out of the climate spaces. And we rely heavily on relational organizing and meeting people, chatting, connecting, and building the power through relationships. So I've been seeing some relational organizing already in the chat, which I love. But I would encourage you to try to make a friend in the climate space and go to a meeting or an event together, because it's a lot less daunting if you have someone that you already know there. And lastly, I won't go through this in too much detail and we can send this out, but this is just a graphic of kind of where we are now and the problem systemically of this extractive economy based in capitalism and colonialism, and where we're headed in this like economy that's living, that focuses on people and the environment and our ability to work together and not work against each other and extract our people. We want to choose people and environment over profit, and that's kind of where we're headed and our like positive view of the future. And I will pass it back to Chelsea.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for bearing through that small technical difficulty there. But we are now in our last round of goals and roles, getting into movement building, whether it's at the statewide level or that local team level. So I'll kick us off here and just talking about the statewide stuff. You know, we do the movement building we do by being centered in climate justice, by collaborating with others, and knowing and believing that mass movements create change, right? The climate movement is not the first grassroots movement in human history. We have so many examples to look back on and pull from our strengths in the past. So in the long term, we want to keep building that critical mass movement that really centers our values that have to do with justice and equity and diversity and inclusion. Now more than ever, these things are under attack, and we are not stepping down or shying away from upholding these values and prioritizing these actual solutions that get to the root causes of these issues that we're experiencing today. And in the short term, we want to expand that on the ground leadership and create a strong network of change makers. That's all y'all here and everyone that couldn't be here tonight, and getting us to be interconnected with one another. Because when we create more of those critical connections, we do have a stronger united movement to really bring our goals to life in. And when the people lead, the leaders will follow. As we said earlier, we really do believe that is true. And so there's a couple ways in which people can be a part of statewide movement building efforts. That first one there is being a zip leader. That is to stand for both a zip code in which one resides in, as well as the acronym of zoning interpersonal power. So the vision here is that we would have 1 to 2 leaders in every single zip code across the state of Colorado that is working closely with our local teams and our statewide committees to do that really deep level of organizing in their community. We have an interest form linked there that you're welcome to fill out and share more information. But right now, yeah, we would love to have more zip leaders representing different zip codes across the state. We're also looking for folks that are ready to do what we call one-to-ones with other people. So if a new person joins this organization and they're feeling maybe a little overwhelmed or needing some direction, you know, volunteers that are ready to make some new connections with them and build some community, point them in the right direction, just be a climate buddy for them, right? So that we can make this a team sport. There's no reason that we need to treat this as an individualist endeavor, right? We need to be working together. And lastly, we are looking for more folks to be a part of our tabling and outreach crew. So kind of like that picture you see there, we try to get out into different festivals and events and different farmers markets across the state to bring in new people, get folks to sign petitions, and grow the movement in places we haven't been before. So we have a training to help folks with that and bring you in and give you all the resources you need. We also have all those same materials to help zip leaders get started in the role. So if you're feeling like any of these things would need a little bit more assistance, we got you. Just let us know, and we would love to have you as a movement builder in these spaces. So that's the statewide overview, and I'm gonna get us now down to the local level and pass it back to Sarah here.
Okay, so in northern Colorado, we are just trying to increase the number of informed and excited activists. So we're doing this by having educational events and just by kind of growing our reach in the NOCO region. And then we are also continuing to work with Greeley Clean Air, increasing advocacy and engagement, and also just more broadly working on air quality in northern Colorado because it is pretty bad. So we are needing some roles. We would need some educational content creator extraordinaires to make things like flyers, PowerPoints, graphics, that sort of thing. Tabling Guru Grand Supremes would help find opportunities to table and just hang out at the table and talk to people. This one is pretty fun. And then local meeting support czar to help kind of plan those local meetings. We do them every month, and we want to try to have something fun at each one or something different. And then the event planning specialist would help us to put on both educational content and like fundraisers, film screenings, that sort of thing. So if any of those are interesting to you, we have some that you could do remote or in person, and I would love to chat. And I will pass it once again back to Chelsea.
Thank you, Sarah. So for the Denver local team in the long term, similarly to the NOCO team, we're trying to build up local organizers and leadership so that the team's movement building efforts and campaigns are just kind of flowing, that people aren't just looking for direction from staff members or people like me. I don't have all the answers. I hate to break it to you. What we need for a strong movement is really for people to bring all their expertise and passion. So that's the long term. And in the short term, because we're at this mid-year point, we're going to be revisiting and revising possibly our team strategic plan for the remainder of the year to make sure that we're working strategically for the rest of the year. So ways that you all can be a part of that, if you're Denver based and you're really looking for that in-person connection, could be supporting our Suncor Action Committee, which meets on the first Monday of the month. We need folks in that space to do a variety of things, whether it's helping develop agendas, maybe do some canvassing, helping with general communications, or welcoming new people into that space. This is one of the Denver local team's biggest campaigns, and we definitely need more folks as a part of it to shut down that polluting refinery in Commerce City. And much like the NOCO team, we also need folks to help with our monthly team meetings. So things to make it fun, things to help plan it and promote it and get the word out and bring in new people. And last but not least, we are looking for folks to help with the climate leadership workshop that we're putting on September 13th. I know it feels like it's a ways away, but it's truly not. We need a location and we need people to help co-present, be there day of to help set up or break down. So if you're really wanting something that has kind of a clean cut endpoint, a leadership workshop is a really great way to go about doing that. And I would love to have your support in that space as I'm on the Denver team. The Boulder County team is in a very similar space. Long-term goals looking to advocate for a just and swift transition off of fossil fuels, as Boulder County does still deal with fracking projects, as well as pesticide use in their natural areas. And in the short term, hoping to increase the number of excited climate activists that know what's going on and are engaging regularly in meetings and events. So some similarities here: monthly team meeting support, creating agendas, getting the word out, and making those fun spaces to create new connections with people, as well as having folks that are part of the tabling and outreach crew. And that could be finding opportunities for us to be at, or actually just doing a volunteer shift and helping us bring in new people. And they're also looking for folks that are ready to help with social media. So we are on Facebook and Blue Sky and Instagram, but we don't always keep up with getting the word out about what we're doing or what we have done. So anyone that has that social media savviness, even if it's just for a month or two, would be really wonderful to have your support. And Colorado Springs here, for the long-term goals there, really to continue connecting with Colorado Springs activists and get them more involved in those local campaigns, which oftentimes do have to do with sustaining local ecosystems and more regenerative agriculture type campaigns. There's so many great groups doing that work, and so we need more folks to support action within this. And in the short term, increasing the number of engaged activists, much like the Boulder team. So being a part of those monthly team meetings, helping with tabling and outreach and getting the word out, and also helping with social media. And it's a little bit of a copy and paste from the one before, but goes to show that these are true needs that we have all across the state. And we just need local leaders to be able to step up and get involved and play their part. And with that, I will pass it over to Steve.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hey, I had to go off camera for a second because there was a deer right outside my window eating our flowers. So he wanted to be in on the meeting, and I told him, no, this was not a good idea. I will look at what we're really looking at up here in the Roaring Fork Valley. Our goals are similar, of course, increasing the number of confident, informed climate activists. My own story is I was a volunteer, for quite a few months, helping out where I could. And I saw the opportunity came up to actually be a part of this great organization. And I have not looked back. I mean, it's been 1 year now. So the goals are what this is all about. Going out, doing all the things that everyone else has talked about. Short term, growing connections with local businesses and organizations and activist groups. We've been working on a huge petition right now to reach out to one of our local, actually our state congressmen. So there's a lot of things that you can do in these roles. Event planning specialist, we're working on an event up here for July. And these are things that help you with your own joy of being in new relationships and developing communication skills. So I'm finding that the people that help me here are huge helps. And we have meetings almost every week. Tabling and outreach crew, we do local farmers markets. We do other events that are coming up, strawberry days. Anything and everything is possible for the group up here in the Roaring Fork Valley. Nothing better than meeting people face to face. And then data specialists, that is such a challenge. If there are people that feel comfortable learning more about campaigning, technology, this is a great opportunity. It's such a great cross training for yourself, no matter what you're doing in your life, whether you're a third actor like me, or someone who's younger and looking to expand their own life. This has been a fantastic movement. So I just can tell you that for the 1 year that I've been involved in this particular movement, I have had, even though it's been difficult with what's happened with the election, I love it. And I only thought positively about 350 Colorado and the opportunity I have. So I think next screen is a group poll, and I'll throw it back over to Chelsea to explain that.
Thank you, Steve. We are wrapping it up here. As we know, we're at the top of the hour, and we just had a very quick poll that we would love to hear from y'all, because we covered so many different roles and opportunities for you to be involved in, and maybe you were taking notes or finding ways to note what you're interested in. But we are launching this poll here, so you should see a question pop up. Which area of work most stood out to you? Was it keeping fossil fuels in the ground? Was it movement building, promoting climate solutions, policy? Just take a second there to plug in. You responding to this does not tie you to anything that you have to do. This is just helpful for us to understand, yeah, what areas of work kind of stood out to you most. All right, I see some responses coming through. Some movement building action. Got some promoting climate solutions action. Nice. Give this about 10 more seconds. Get your vote in. I promise you won't hurt any of our feelings too, because we understand different rhymes, different reasons, things that can attract people. And hopefully tonight is just that jumping point as well. Okay. All right, I'm going to end the poll here. So hopefully you've gotten your votes in. Folks can see, hopefully as well, the results here that movement building and promoting climate solutions were the two primary bodies of work that stood out to folks tonight, which is great to know, because we, of course, need folks in every area, and especially in those as well, to realize all our goals. So to wrap us up here, and we always want to be mindful of your time and recognizing that you probably have many other things that are demanding of you in life. To get us going forward, let's connect if we haven't already. If you don't know someone here and you want to learn more or be able to understand the work we're doing, having time to get together one-on-one on Zoom or in person to get coffee would be really great. And to consider different ways that you can see with new eyes, right? This unique moment in time that we're in is really demanding that we get more creative and more dynamic to all the different changes that come up every day. And so seeing things differently can be useful in doing that. And if you're looking for a regular place to get information about what is going on, the 350colorado.org website is a great place to go. We have our calendar that Matt mentioned, as well as the action dashboard that we update every single week with new opportunities and ways for people to get involved, whether it's online or in person or hybrid. And if you're feeling like, yeah, I want to boost my organizing by getting connected with other people so that I can activate, let us know. We would love to make some introductions. The power of this movement is going to come down to people being connected with one another, not just people being connected with us as staff members of 350 Colorado. Those interconnections really do make all the difference. And if you're not already following us on social media, Instagram and Facebook are linked there through those QR codes. So great places to check out and get more information. And in the spirit of always improving and owning when we don't do, the best work that we can possibly do, we welcome everyone to fill out this quick feedback survey. It can be done anonymously, so no worries. If you had more, heartful feedback to give us, any ways that we could improve doing this again in the future or other events of ours, we would definitely welcome and encourage that. Give you a second to scan that, but we will also include it in the follow-up email. And just to end us on a quote, Grace Lee Boggs, writer, philanthropist, organizer, said that movements are born of critical connections rather than critical mass. So I know we've said it more than once tonight, but we really do mean it, that we believe that the power of this work comes together when we all not only know each other, but have each other's backs, and our backs are also covered. So consider making those connections with others around you in the community. And if you need anything from us, as I promised, here are all of our emails. Pretty straightforward, just our first names at 350colorado.org. Yeah, send us an email. Let's find time to connect. Let's get you plugged into things and hopefully support you as best as we can. And you being the best climate activist you can be, whatever that looks like for you. So thank you again so much for being here and for the 5 extra minutes. Hopefully the rest of your evening is gentle and restorative, as well as the rest of your week, as we're heading into a holiday and the summer solstice. The weight of the world is not enough to stop also just the good things that we have to continue celebrating and grounding in. So we admire you all so, so much. Stop sharing here. And if anyone wants to hang out and ask a question of us, you're welcome to do so. But I will officially stop the recording as well to make that a little bit easier.
I'm glad you recorded that, Chelsea. That was very good. Thank you.